How you doing? Dr. B back for Module 5 here. And just to kind of go over it real quick, this is kind of the finishing piece of what I want to share with you here. Um, I gave you 5 articles to look at, and starting at the one at the bottom, it comes from Western Governors University, and it was an article I found, thought that I'd share it with you. Some things they think is important for teaching remotely. Coming up from that, there's a scholastic.com article, uh, challenge your top students. And I always look at it this way: I want to challenge all my students, and I'm going to target high expectations, and I might have to drag lower level students along. And I do that by making the learning engaging, making it fun, making it interesting, providing the opportunity to explore something cool. And I think that's one of the things that I like sharing with students is that for me, my discipline is social studies. I want to make it interesting to a point that I'm not testing minutia. I'm not testing these interesting side stories, but I'm doing that to add the flavor and add the interest and add the uh, desire for kids to want to learn more. And so, like, for instance, when we were talking about ancient Egypt to my 6th graders, I would share with them that the ancient Egyptians, and this is my classic example that I use anytime I'm teaching it, the ancient Egyptians, uh, as a cure for teething infants, and I think we would all agree Shakespeare had it right that hell hath no fury than a infant teething. Um, it's a miserable experience for everyone involved. I've gone through it 6 times. Thank goodness I'm done going through that. But the ancient Egyptians, as part of their medical practice and medical expertise, would put either live or chopped up baby mice into the mouths of these little infants. And I'd share that with these kids, and they would all just, what? And just by sharing that, and there's a sound medical reason for it. Number one, infant mice are actually kind of sterile. Number two, if they're live, they're going to use their claws in there on the gums to relieve pressure and help the teeth come through. Or if they're dead baby mice, the bones are going to give something for them to teeth on. And so there's actually a reason behind that. And I'd share that with kids, and then I would ask them, all right, how many of you think that's gross? Yeah, that's sick, that's disgusting. All right, how many of you think that's interesting and want to know more? And you'd start seeing hands slowly come up, and there'd be a couple kids going, as long as it's not about mice, we're fine. So if you can make that interesting, you can pull kids along and hook them. Or the metaphor I always use is, once I get my tendrils in your little head, you're mine. And that's what it's all about. And I think that's something that we need to do as we get better and better as teachers, is find those stories, find those experiences, find those ways of making it interesting. Pythagoras, when he discovered the Pythagorean theorem, he celebrated by driving 100 bulls and sacrificing 100 bulls off of a cliff. And you talk to kids with that, and they go, weird. And little stories like that, I mean, that's one a math teacher could use to hook kids, to get them interested in it. And once you get them interested, Go a little cross discipline and make it fascinating for them to study. Okay. The third one in the middle there, e-learning industry, simulations and games make learning fun. That's going to be the heart of what I'm about to talk to you here. The blogs, UMass.edu, online tools, new tool pages. Okay, I don't know if Cindy shares this with you. She might have. This is, I teach a class, a grad class, EDCI 718, Intro to Ed Technology. And I send my kids to this site every year. They have a list of the tools by year. These are the things that people need to know about. These are the things people need to know about. Each year they come out with a good list, and that has a good list for you. So if you haven't seen any of those on there yet, I would encourage you to take a look. And then the first one, verywellmind.com, I like this because it's a nice website that explores psychology. I like it that the articles are fact checked, so we can. It's not a bad article, so to speak. But the main theory, educational theory, or I use it educationally, the way that I want, or the thing that I want you to um, get from this is looking at this theory. And they've divided it into two parts: a grasping experience and a transforming experience. And when I read Cobb's original theory of it, it was presented as 4 steps in one theory. And I kind of like the fact that this article divides it up into 2 parts like that. But what I want to look at here is just look at this theory. And this is, again, kind of rounding off my presentation to you of things that we need to consider as we go into this. The first is a concrete experience. The kids experience something, whether it be the teacher showing something, whether it be the teacher having the kids do something. Something happens. Number 2, we have an abstract conceptualization. And I find in the educational realm that the teacher has to scaffold this very carefully for the kids to get. And then I'm going to continue on here as if it was 3 and 4 as opposed to the 1 and 2 of the transformation, even though I like that. Okay, so they've done something, they've thought about it and what this means, then they reflect upon it. And there's 2 different things with this. Number 1, abstract conceptualization, they're going through, all right, what did we just experience? Reflective observation, they're going, this is what it means. And I think that's the big part that we've got to have. That leads into the 4th step there. Active experimentation, where they test the theory. And we go back now, or test their understanding, test how they do it, and we get testing a hypothesis, making it a lab class, much like Marzano strategy number 8. Now, with that in mind, I want you to think about this. Where have we seen this in world education? Wait time is practice. He's looking at his students, seeing what they say. Folks, this is the Japanese math model. This is where it was rooted in and where it comes from. Concrete experience. The teacher provides manipulatives and shows them how it could work. Here is a cylinder. Here is a pitcher of water. Determine how we can find out the volume that this cylinder holds. They pour, they test back and forth. The teacher might show how this works, or they know the example. They have to figure it out. Abstract conceptualization, they process the data. They come up with what it means. Reflective observation, this is how we might learn this. Active experimentation, teacher goes, you think you got it? Here are 2 new cylinders, go to work. That is the Japanese model. Learning through experience is what it's all about. And when we come back for part 2, I'm going to share with you how I did this in my class, and how I would encourage you to keep finding a way to make it work in yours.